I'm alcoholic, and my name is Mike Brewer. First of all, I'd like to, today I want to get started by pushing something that I'm involved in. We have a bus trip that we take every couple of years on an official bus, and then every year unofficial bus over to Akron, Ohio. And it has primarily been folks from Fort Wayne that go on the trip to Akron. But we brought some flyers up, and Leslie has agreed to come up today, and she is going to be the voice of the bus and going to Akron. So we're kind of extending it to this group, that if anybody's interested in going to Akron, there are flyers here. It's a Sunday, October the 12th, and she'll be more than happy. Les, would you raise your hand so they can see you? Hey, Leslie. Hey, Leslie. My sobriety date's February 21st, 2002. It's kind of fun. Dee and I were talking at supper last night, and she was saying she got sober when she was 18. And I said, well, geez, in my mind I'm thinking, she got her driver's license and her AA card the same day, and I got my AARP card and my AA card the same day. So we get sober at different times in our lives when we need to. I also wear a shirt and tie anytime that I speak, or that I chair a meeting, or I give a token. And the reason that I do that, and I can find nothing in any of the AA literature that supports that. It's just that I do it out of a respect for a program that I have never found another activity I've ever been in that I have more reverence for than Alcoholics Anonymous. I also use my last name, and the reason I do that, with anonymity, it's not important today that we use our last name. I take it from my Bible of AA, which is the language of the heart, is that we are not anonymous from each other. I do respect your anonymity. I don't use your last name unless you give me permission to do that, and in a lot of cases, I don't even know it. But I do think that if I go to the hospital and I want to go see Big O, and I ask that clerk, can I see Big O? They go, I need a little more help than that. So these are issues that come about. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to try to weave the serenity prayer and the steps together throughout my discussion today. It won't be what I would call a normal lead. And I want to say, by the way, I see Mr. Jerry out there sitting, and at the very first meeting that I ever gave an opportunity to speak was down at a church in the Central City part of Fort Wayne. Jerry was chairing that meeting for years and years. He faithfully did that work. There are a lot of people that do a lot of good service work for AA that you never hear about, and that's what this program is about. So on the serenity prayer, we open all of our meetings up with, God, grant me the serenity. Now, the first step, also, and I'm going to be flipping this back and forth, is admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. The first word is God. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to go on and talk about that a little bit later in the steps. But grant me the serenity. What does grant mean for me? I could not figure that out. In my life, everything had a cost. And I'm going to try and use a term that you might use if you have younger children going to college or something. But if this prayer said, God, scholarship me the serenity, it would mean that I had to do something for it. I had to have a certain level of intelligence. I had to be somewhere. Or if it said, God, loan me the serenity, it meant I'd have to pay it back. But it says grant. And a grant in financial terms is a free gift that I owe nothing for. It's just given to me. It's undeserved and it's given. I don't have to pay it back, and I don't have to earn it. So the prayer says, God, grant me the serenity. To me, serenity does not mean that I mumble about and walk through life morbidly or okay. Serenity means clarity. That I now see things as they really are, not as I would pretend that they are, or not as I would hope that they would be, or not as how I want to rewrite history, meaning my own, to make it the way it is. So to me today, serenity is clarity. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives become unmanageable. I believe that a lot of people think that has to do with possessions, your house, your car, your relationships. While I do believe that is part of the unmanageability, I believe also the unmanageability is in your head. And I will give you an example. One drunk and one sober. Under the influence of alcohol, I took 100 Ambien, which is a sleep sedative, not to commit suicide because I thought my life was miserable, but because I believed the lie that King Alcohol told me. That, Mike, you need a good night's sleep. And if you take 100 Ambien, wash it down with the beer, and take a shower, you will sleep well. Well, I did. And I laid down, and if my daughter had not came into the bedroom looking for a hairdryer at the time and happened to see the Ambien bottle and not seen it, she'd have thought I was passed out drunk like normal, and I would be dead today. The insanity of that is I went to the hospital, was hooked up everywhere that you could be possibly hooked up. 4 days after I got out of the hospital, I drank again. And soon and a lot. See, insanity for me is not losing a house. It's making decisions under the influence of alcohol that I absolutely would not make sober today. Am I capable of insane behavior today sober? Yes. I am a tanner. I tan. I love the sun. I have cancer, skin cancer. They cut it out all the time. And I still tan. You see, I am sober and still unmanageable. The difference is sober, I go to the doctor all the time and have it looked at and have it taken care of. So when someone stands up here and tells you how cool they are and their life is so cool, I am very capable of doing those type of things. So I want to talk about to accept the things I cannot change. That's the second part of the Serenity Prayer. What can I not change? I so bad want to be 40, but I'm 68. I really want to be 40. And there's a 25-year-old back there going, I really don't ever want to be 40. It all depends on where you are. So you see, I cannot change. So I need to accept the fact that I am 68 and never going to be 40. There is no day that I'm ever going to be 40. I'm alcoholic. There is no day that I am not going to be alcoholic. Was I born alcoholic? I believe so, for me. How many of you remember, some of you, there's some older folks in here, thank you, that remember Gunsmoke? Pretty good people, okay. I was a young boy, 14 years old, 13 years old, fixing Pepsi out in the fridge, out in my front kitchen for my mom, pouring Pepsi, pretending it was whiskey, and that I was going to get to go to the Long Branch with the dancing girls and guns and whiskey, and I had never had a drink, or there are no alcoholics in my family as far back as I can see. But I was pretending that that was a glamorous life at 14. So I am capable there of saying, I could hardly wait until I could drink. Now, I like to think of my alcoholism too as a more modern type of thing, the movie The Titanic. You know, the Titanic was this marvelous boat. That's my alcoholism. And I get on it, and there's parties and dancing and laughing, and it's fun to be on the Titanic. And you know, the thing I found out about the Titanic, it was a hell of a boat 7/8 of the way. It just didn't make it the last eighth. I like, whoop, there's a little, I'm going along in my alcoholism, there's a little bump, hit the iceberg, not a big deal, got arrested for drunk driving. Okay. So, the consequences of my drinking start getting worse and worse. And I think, I got to do something about this Titanic. It's not quite as cool as I was. So I get off into a life vest, which is called a treatment center. And I was to go to treatment centers like you went to Walmart. Lots of them. And I'm in these treatment centers. And I'd go to the treatment center for 30 days. And I'd say, that Titanic, that wasn't that bad. Let's turn this rowboat around and take me back and let me get back on it. I think they call that relapse today. I did that over and over again. Treatment centers. And every time I would go into a treatment center, I was trying to change something. What I was trying to change was, how can I drink and be messed up in my head without you knowing it? See, I believe alcoholics want to be in la-la land in their heads and act normal on the outside. And they don't work. I couldn't do that. So I had to have the courage to change the things I can. And what I can now change today, and go back to that first word, serenity, clarity, is I can see what I am. And I may still choose to do that. So the Titanic gets ready to sink, and I'm on this lifeboat now, the last chance. And I'm out there, and the Titanic, which is my alcoholism and the disease and the sickness, it's now sunk. And I'm in this lifeboat now because I got back on it one last time. And we're going around in this sea of alcoholism, and we're looking for people like in the movie. Are you there? Are you there? We'll yell for you, and we'll reach out to help you, and we'll put our hand down. If you get in the boat, we'll row for you until you're okay, until you can help us row. But we're not coming back in that sea of alcoholism for you. All you got to do is climb up into that boat yourself. You got to do that. I had to do that. See, it's my belief, and Joe and I were talking before the meeting, I don't believe there are any group plans to recovery or salvation. It's all got to be done individually. There's great fellowship, and there is great camaraderie of these things. But your sobriety, and I'll say mine, has to come through what I do and what I believe and how I change. So we come to the next line in this thing, and the wisdom to know the difference. Today I know the difference. I know without a doubt from practical experience that if I drink, bad things are coming for sure. I may choose it, and bad things may come tonight, and they may come in a week, but they're coming. And sober, I don't have a clue what's going to happen tonight. But whatever's going to happen won't be bad. And if it's bad, I'll be able to deal with it. You see, I used to laugh. People say, man, sober life is a boring life. So people, and I always thought that. I thought, my goodness, how are you going to have any fun if you don't drink? I knew every day what was going to happen. I'm talking about a life that's every day I was going to wake up and drink alcohol and get sick and pass out, and then every day wake up. You're talking about the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's what I did every day. And I will share the ending of my drinking. The last 4 months of my drinking, I was up in a closet by myself, hemorrhaging from everywhere I could. I went nowhere. My family had pretended like I wasn't there. And I woke up, and I don't know why, but in the past I would always detox and go to treatment centers or to the doctor's office and get drugs to detox so that I wouldn't feel it. It's pretty easy to detox when you're in a coma. And then you wake up and you go, it wasn't that bad. I'm going to be able to drink again, and soon. So I detoxed alone upstairs. I don't know why. We talk about divine intervention. My time was right. Was my calling there? I don't know. You know, I'm sitting there. I'm 55 years old. I'm totally incapacitated, and I'm drunk as can be. And I say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try this detox. And I didn't ask for help. And I shook, and I shivered, and I had convulsions. And for 2 weeks. But I didn't get any help. I now know what detox is. I never knew what it was. Well, you went through detox. Well, I know you didn't. I was in a treatment center asleep. And I always go in there wearing a pair of thin pants and come out wearing a pair of sweatpants. Eat 64 pounds of ice cream when you're in there. And now I know what it's like to detox. So the clarity for me is, am I willing to pay the price to drink again, knowing that that's one of the prices I got to pay, is go through that detox? The answer is no, I'm not. I came to believe in a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. That's the second step. I look at this thing and I'm going, okay, I've been in AA now, and it says living one day at a time. I'm hearing all these debates about, is there a God, is there not a God, is there a higher power, should we talk about it, should we not, all those type of discussions. And I start thinking, I have some clarity. Where are 95% of the AA meetings? They're in churches. That's where they're at. Now, I go to a meeting every morning where there's been some debate about should there be a picture of Jesus in the room or not. And I'm sitting there and I'm going to myself, what did Bill Wilson, and I want to find out where in the book things are that explain to me why these traditions became what they became and how the steps work. And if you look in the language of the heart, and this is the book that I swear by, On page 166, it talks about let's be friendly with our friends, and it talks about the clergy. And Bill Wilson will tell you that Alcoholics Anonymous was founded on psychiatry and religion. And that the groups that were originally formed, and this is part of the reason I like people to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, the trip to Akron, Ohio. When you're in Akron and we go to the Sebring Estates, and there's a gatehouse there. And in that gatehouse is where Bill Wilson met Bob Smith for the first time. And the last time we went, you were there, correct, Leslie? And a guy that was the second time after you'd gone. This guy, we did his first step right in the room where Wilson and Smith, they talked for the first time. The time before, Leslie was there with us, and a gentleman got his 30-year token upstairs in the bedroom at Bob's house on Ardmore Avenue. It is a very meaningful place to go if you believe in the AA history and if you're interested in why you're sitting in this church on a Saturday morning and thinking of some of the places you could be. So for me, I am out of that debate. I absolutely know where AA came from. I absolutely know that we should be friendly with our friends and that I do not want to get caught up in the minutia. I like the big book. I really like the 12 and 12, but I use the language of the heart to try to understand the traditions. We can sometimes make them, and I became so obsessed with an example, the seventh tradition. We're self-supporting through our own contributions. I was going to have we have a New Year's Eve dance in Fort Wayne every year, and I asked some non-alcoholics to donate a cake for dessert. Some lady come up to me, you don't know your traditions. Seventh tradition says we are self-supporting through our own contributions. Well, after I was going to kill her, and then, see, she did it publicly. She called me out in public. And so I had to spend a week finding out how wrong she was. Both technically from New York and from the book and everything that I could find. That all that tradition has to do with economic influence on AA, either implied or real. That if grandma wants to buy you a token and give it to you, or a non-alcoholic wants to put $1 in the pot, or if someone wants to donate a cake, it's quite okay. What we don't do is sell influence. And I'll example how I had to turn it down. Pepsi-Cola wanted to donate to Pepsi for the picnic one year, and I wanted them to do that. And they said, but we want to put Pepsi-Cola signs all over the picnic area and that we're sponsoring this picnic. And I said, no, we can't do that. We'll take your free Pepsi. We're not going to put your sign up. So where I'm leading at is that these things that go on in our lives happen for reasons. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory, step 4. So that third and fourth, this thing about God, I'm out of the debate. How did I connect it all together? I connected how AA started. I connected where AA meetings are. I connect where I'm at in my own personal life today. And I've come to the conclusion that it's not important that you believe what I believe. But what's important is I believe that you believe what you believe and that you're sincere in your belief. And that's enough for me. I don't have to think about it any further. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. I had a hard time with that word because it said moral inventory. I thought it said immoral inventory. All the things in my life that I had done wrong. What had I done wrong? Why do I have to make what the word moral means is honest? It comes back to the serenity prayer. Serenity. Clarity. What was I at that point in time? And I sponsor people today and I say, let's just take a snapshot of what you are today. It's not right, wrong, good, bad, or indifferent. It's just what are you? So it's an inventory. I come from a business background, so I understand inventories. I understand that if I have a lot of bad inventory, I'm paying taxes, I don't need it. But I sometimes am emotionally attached to it and I can't throw it away. I need to keep it. Well, in Alcoholics Anonymous, what I want to do is stop keeping bad inventory. And I don't say become a moralist. I said stop keeping bad inventory and start seeing what I am. So, brings me back to the serenity prayer. Let's go to the second half here. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace. Does that, and there is a second half of the serenity prayer. And by the way, I was sober 5 years before I knew that. 5 years, and I go to a meeting, guys, well, there's a second, well, what's the second half of the serenity prayer? I didn't know that. And accepting hardships is the pathway to peace. I thought, well, does that mean that I got to live my life with hardships all the time so when I die I'll feel good? No, what it means is I got to sponsor people, a lot of people that have hardships in their lives, and how combined together can we get these hardships out of their life? And then I know peace, and so do they. And to me today, peace is not some sort of quiet sitting. To me, peace is being actively engaged and involved in everything that is important. And what I can say important is, I mean, what's going on with the people that I know. I am sorry for the starving babies in Africa. I can't do anything about it. I am sorry, or I am happy for people that do, and I can't do too much about their habit. What I can do is be very connected and involved in people that are in the program that I'm around. My friend Bob sitting over there, he's going to speak later today. He uses a word, and I hope I'm not, it's not, I don't think it's a big deal, but he says every time he introduces himself, he got another bonus day. And I love that term, another bonus day. Because as alcoholics, we should be dead. And I always say that if you're a practicing alcoholic of my kind, you wish you were dead. What to me, the eternal hell would be waking up like I woke up every day, feeling how I felt with remorse and guilt and shame and embarrassment and sickness, and having to do that day after day after day. A bonus day is how I get up every morning, and the worst I'm going to feel that day is as quickly as I can go to the restroom. And then I'm going to feel fine the rest of the day. So I get to have lots of bonus days now. I've even got to the point, I am so joyous and free that I can be in a traffic jam and I can make a fun game out of it. Trying to get to Mancino's after our Friday night meeting up on DuPont Road. They got all these road blocks and all that. And I never know. I say, this will be fun to see if I can figure out how to do this. 2 Fridays in a row. You see, I took that inventory. Humbly, and we were entirely ready to ask God to remove all these defects of character. Well, a lot of people say if I got rid of all my defects of character, I'd be like Casper the Ghost. I'd disappear. Well, what are defects of character? What I think it is for me, it was just doing those kinds of things under the influence of alcohol that I wouldn't do sober. You know, I talked about the Ambien. I used to take handguns, and I'd shoot at trains drunk. Sober, I wouldn't even consider that as a thought process of something to do. See, alcohol works from the brain. It works from the outside in. And what's the first thing that goes away? You drink a little bit, your inhibitions. Now you'll dance. Now you'll talk. Now you'll do. That's the defect of character. Why can't you do that stuff sober? Because we're taught not to do it sober. You know, our parents teach us, be this way, but don't do that. Touch, but don't think. So alcohol allows us to act extemporaneously. So you drink a little more, a little longer, and all of a sudden, now I'll drive 100 miles an hour down the freeway backwards with no lights on, thinking I'm cool. Because if God means to take me, he will. Maybe what I was stupid. But I drank more alcohol. And then you drink a little more alcohol and you get a little rage going on inside of yourself. And by now it's deep down inside your brain, and you take a gun and you shoot somebody. See, alcohol is the great devil that tells me, says, Brewer, if you keep drinking me, it's going to be okay. Now I'm up in this closet by myself, sick, hemorrhaging, bleeding, everything can do. And I'm looking at this last drink that I'm getting ready to take, and it's saying, this is the drink that will bring the magic back. This is the drink that will make it okay. Have one more. Just one more. And then when I get ready to take that drink, I walk into Alcoholics Anonymous, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm in the gutter now. I'm laying in the gutter, looking down at you, judging you. I'm judging why the way your hair is, the funny color of your shirt, why you got your hat on the way you do, how you say words. So what I had done was I finally escaped, and I can tell you that this situation here, I humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. I spent my first 3 years in AA on hate. I hated everyone and everything, but I learned that King Alcohol was no longer going to be in charge. And then the miracle happened. I stayed long enough and did enough things that the hate started to go away. And what I would do is I would realize the only person that I was hating was me. Nobody else. This lady that called me out on the seventh tradition a few years ago, I make it a big point every time I see her now to shake her hand and speak with her and not to prove that I'm okay, because I generally don't want to hate or feel bad. And all she was doing was she was doing the best that she could do. And I'm sitting here, I'm talking, Brewer, you got Cadillac problems now. You're looking at treatment centers and jails and drunks and drugs and all the bad things. And now you're wanting to dislike some woman because she's told you something about a tradition. That's what I call a Cadillac problem. Most alcoholics, they'll win the Illinois lottery and Ohio lottery the same day, and they'll be in Indiana fretting about which one they're going to go pick up first. That's what they do. We always got to figure out ways to suffer. Suffer. So what I say today is I tell people, you suffer. I'm not. It's like that lifeboat I'm talking about. I'll come and get you. Leslie and I, we spend a lot of time talking, a lot of AA stuff together, what bottoms are and what does it mean. And I find that the longer I talk to people, the less my opinion is important. When and not so much Bob, but there were a group of folks that had been coming out, and we started our meeting out north. And we had the normal group, what I call them, people who were there for years, and then a bunch of folks started coming out from other meetings out north. And I didn't want them out there. I don't want them coming out. I said, wait a minute. I built a resentment up against you guys 8 years ago, and I can't let go of it. You did not treat me right at your meeting. You didn't handle your meeting the way I thought you should. So what I'm going to do is resent you and hate you. But I figured out how to handle that. I just didn't go where they were. And then they start showing up at my meeting. My meeting? Hey, Brewer, it's not your meeting. It's a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And not only that, they bring wisdom and kindness and goodness and regularity to the meeting. They bring all the things that should be brought to an AA meeting. And I publicly, in a meeting, when one of the gentlemen made the comment, I had to say publicly that I was wrong. I needed to make I don't like to make public amends. I like to make private amends if I need to. But I made a public amends, and I said I was wrong. Wrong in my thinking, wrong in my action, and I'm glad they're there. And today, all those folks that come out to that meeting that I go to on the north side every day at 9 o'clock, I can hardly wait till I get to see them. And I can hardly wait till the new person, the person that's outside this somewhere in Auburn tonight, getting drunk and sick. I hope they're getting ready to show up. That's what I hope. Oh, we got to watch our time here, don't we? Oh, okay. So we got ready here to make these amends to all these people. Made direct amends to all people except when to do so would injure them or others. How many times, and I remember making a joke saying, well, I'll just get the Fort Wayne phone book out and start with letter A. Just start calling people, seeing people. And I remember that when I was thinking about doing these amends, and by the way, when I did my 5th step and wrote my 4th step, I thought they'd make a screen novel out of it and it'd become a movie and a play. See, I thought it was so exciting, and I just knew my sponsor would want to hear it 2 or 3. Can you tell me that stuff again? That they'd want to hear it again and again. And that's how self-important I put myself. That I genuinely believed that you would want to hear all of my escapades and glamorize it. So my wife and I were here last night. We came up for dinner, and we were driving home, and we were talking about drunk logs and different things. And I said, well, you think, she says, are you going to tell them about the time that you drove the car in reverse backward? And I said, you mean the funny stuff, or you want me to tell you about the times and all of the things that I did that were not very nice? I said, that is the way I look at my past. And the book tells me that I shall not regret it, nor wish to shut the door on it. But here's how I handle my past. I got it like a screen, and I close it. And I don't look in there very often. And if I need to look in there, I'll open the screen up to look for something very specific that'll help me going down the road, and then I close it up again. Because I don't want to spend my future looking at my past. I'm not repeating it. And see, because I'm a big believer now that when it says here, take as he did the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, I would want to go back and erase all of the past, and not so much my behavior, but what I did, I want to erase your mind. I'm not so sure that I would sit here and say, I would want to do different. I just don't want you to remember it. And even as the years of sobriety that go by, I almost don't remember when I hear newcomers come in the room and talk, and people or folks that I almost don't know what that is like anymore. I don't remember feeling sick. But they help me. And people say, oh, new people help you. No, what I mean by that is I want them to get well as quickly as they can and stay. But what doesn't have to happen is I don't have to go, well, you helped me. I'm glad you're sick and feel bad and miserable, and I don't. Now, I may be saying that to myself, but I don't need to say that. Today, I got to make sure that anything that I say to someone, I'm not going to hurt them. I'm not a saint. And I give an example, and I know that Joe comes down, Vicki, they come down to our meetings, and I think this is so wonderful that we're here today talking, and Joe shares in the meetings, and he shares wonderful things about sobriety, but he doesn't share that he's a minister. He shares good things. Now, would sharing that he's a minister be a good thing? I have come to believe that yes, that what I have learned is that if I'm in the house of a place, that I respect it, that I don't swear. At AA, I learned how I'm supposed to look better, I'm supposed to talk better, and I'm supposed to think better, and I'm supposed to act differently. That's what I learned. Because when King Alcohol would tell me, Brewer, I'm the king, and you're the court jester, and I'll have you dance around, and you'll bounce, and you'll do everything I tell you to do, and all you are is you're just an amusement for me, and when I'm done with you, I'll discard you, and I'll find somebody. People in these churches, they say, Brewer, we'll help you, and we won't even ask you to respect us. But that's what I learned in AA. Respect them. When I go into a place's facility, whatever it is, I want to leave it cleaner than when I was there. I want people to try. I have the keys to 3 churches as the keeper of the key for meetings. I participate in 3 reading groups with people, and we go out of our way. We're reading The Language of the Heart, Experience, Strength, and Hope, and Stories in the Big Book, 3 different groups during the day. And when we go into these churches, we make sure that everything is right back where it is, that it is safe, and that we are responsible for what we do. That's why when we have intergroup, we have the I am responsible statement. Trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will. I love that. Not trusting that Mike Brewer will make all things right. Because everything I tried to do, I might have made it right, but then I could mess it up. That I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. What does reasonable happiness in this life mean? For me today, it just right now, for a long time, it meant alcohol-free and not hate. Today, it's alcohol-free and tolerate. I can tolerate, and what I found out is this word tolerate, it isn't does my behavior allow me to tolerate you. It's do I act so that you can tolerate me. I'm not the judge here. You know, I go to these meetings, and I believe that it's important that if the subject comes up and I have something relevant to say, I share about it. I share it quickly. I don't go on and on and on about what I'm trying to do. And I believe that I need to be available. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time here talking about the 12th step. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps, we tried to carry the message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. I want to talk a little bit about service work. I was out at the General Service Office in New York a couple of summers ago, and I've been blessed to be able to go there twice. And they have a Friday meeting that is an open speaker meeting, and then if you want to have lunch with the staff there, you can. And those people are so kind and will take time to show you how they put the grapevine together, how they do all the packets, how they handle our economics that we support them with. And it's incredible. But there was a sign that says, if you're not giving back to AA, and it was way back in the back, so they don't make a big deal out of it. It says, if you're not giving back to AA, you're still stealing. And how many people do I know that go to AA meetings? I am so grateful for AA. I love my life. It's done this for me. Will you sponsor? No. Will you make coffee? No. But I love AA. I believe that you do 100%, and this is me, I do 100% of what I can, and that's all that I should do. I believe in the spirit of rotation. I have been the treasurer of groups. I believe that I am not offended when someone comes to me and says, show me the receipts that you sent money. It's not in the front. Well, don't you believe I'm integratable? Why would you need to see receipts? I believe in showing the receipts because it's a group contribution. One of the things that I had to struggle with all the time is in AA personally is that in 1940, 60% of the groups never contributed to the well-being of the General Service Office in New York. In 2014, 60% of the groups never contribute to the well-being of the General Service Board. It has not changed. I wanted to change all that. I wanted to go punish people for not contributing. I wanted to shun you and those type of things. And I'm going, as I learned on these things, is what I need to do is show through this program as attraction. If you're attracted to the way that I live my life in sobriety, you'll show me. And how will you show me? You'll invite me to your house. You'll want to play golf with me. You'll ask me to sit privately and read and talk. If you don't want to have anything to do with the way that I'm living my sobriety, you don't have to say hi. You'll ignore me. I know I did to people that I thought was doing something that I didn't care for. Yeah. I don't invite people. What I done was I have a double standard. I'm wanting to treat you differently than I want you to. I want you, we talk about God's grace. I want God to give me mercy, and I want you to have justice. I want a different standard. Well, what I've learned here is I don't need either standard. What I need is mercy and more understanding. Joe, and again, I love this little bit of time Joe and I had to talk. And I'll tell the story, and then I'll close here. I have a brother-in-law who has since passed away that was a drug dealer in Anderson, Indiana. For years, he sold drugs and drank and ran and that's what he did. And he walked into a house, and he saw this little 3-year-old girl come out, and he was selling drugs to the mother, and he looked in this little girl's eyes, and he had the spiritual awakening that Bill Wilson had in the Towns Hospital in New York. He looked at this little girl, gave the money back to the mother, walked out of there, got rid of the drugs, and never again drank or drugged himself, ever. Spent 5 years getting clean and straight and doing all this stuff. Became a minister and spent years in the ministry. And he never once judged a drug addict or alcoholic. He was there with mercy to help and help and help. And when he passed away from a disease a few years ago, you couldn't get into the church or the cemetery area. 400 cars, and it wasn't because he was a politician. It was because he had mercy, and all the people. And Joe and I talked about how we just keep extending the hand over and over and over again. Let God do His work. I used to have one of these stupid jokes where I'd go to church and say, okay, I'm going to throw it up in the air. God, you take whatever you want, and what hits the ground, I'll keep. Well, I gave God His chance. Maybe what I ought to do is put it in the plate and then let someone else decide where it should go, what should happen with it, instead of me. Maybe when I go to AA meeting and they pass the plate, I had a hard time with people not putting dollars in the pot. Guys there with a $4 Starbucks and a cigarette, and you don't put $1 in the pot. And I'm going, how am I going to get by that? Some guy come up to me, he says, quit watching the box go around. I don't watch it go around. I don't know who puts in what. I stop watching. When it comes to me, I put my money in, and I look down at the floor, I look around, or I'll close my eyes. I can't tell you if the person next to me put anything in it or not. I don't have no idea, because what I could do is if I watch and I say, when's my character defect going to go away that I won't judge people? I'll always judge them. But if I don't watch, I don't judge them. If you're doing service work, and I get the opportunity to sponsor a lot of people, and when I believe that means involvement, I don't mean say I'm your sponsor, read page 4 and talk to me. I mean we get together. I meet people before and after every meeting at churches, and we read, and we talk. And I got a sheet with me called the Sponsoring from the 40s that I carry all the time with me. And I'm going to read these things to you, and maybe you can think about this with the people that you sponsor, you work with. It says, put no block between the newcomer and the 12 steps. Call the newcomer. A lot of people say, by golly, you call me, I won't call you. That's okay if that's what you believe. I don't believe that. I call people. I let them know I care. Read the appropriate parts of the big book to the newcomer. Not say, go read it and we'll talk about it. We sit and we read all of the 12. So first we go through the 12 and 12. Then we go back through the book. Then we start looking. How many, this is probably our third or fourth book together that we've read through together. In reading groups, we take, on our Wednesday morning group before the 9 o'clock meeting, we have a group of 5 or 6, and we've read all the pamphlets out loud to each other. And it's open for anybody. We have a golf thing on Friday after the meeting. That's I call it golf. It's when AA people don't play golf. They go to the golf course. It's fellowship. It's how can we let people who have not had an opportunity to be involved in nice things come and participate, and we do it. And we get good, and it's every Friday. And then one of the ladies in the group says, well, in the winter, why don't we go bowling? I went, bowling? So we go bowling. And what we do is these new people show up, and these people come, and they've never had an opportunity just to have a good... I didn't even know you could bowling alley without beer. I didn't even know that went on. And so we bowl. So my point that I'm making, and I'm going to share with you that Nicole is sitting here. Nicole is going to be the chairperson for this year's convention in Alcoholics Anonymous for this coming year. And kind of a story that I'm going to share about me and resentments. I asked her if she would be to work with me and be the voice and do the convention, and she said no. And then a year later, some lady asked her, and she said yes. I was upset. Character defect. Today I've learned that at that time in her life, the right answer was no, and at this time in her life, the right answer was yes. I want to close with just one statement here. I was an alcoholic, and I drank from a trough, and that trough was called despair, and it was filled with the tears of people I had hurt. But I stopped, and so did you. Thank you. I'm alcoholic Mike Brewer.